Hi everyone, in that video we'll see together how to internationalize a Vite and Vue application using Intlayer. You will probably wonder why using Intlayer instead of Vue I18n. And you're right, because Vue I18n is kind of the by default solution to internationalize a Vue application. I will say that the main point is the JSON management. Using Vue, you will usually end up with large JSON at the root of your application, one per local, or like here, split it by namespaces that I will load individually inside my different components. Finally, the main risk will be to load the content from all our different pages into a single one. We will want to avoid that. By the way, if you want to use Vue 18n for the syntax, the community, or any other reason, you should know that Intlayer can be plugged on the top of your favorite internationalization solution, like this, an example. So we will set up an intlayer.config.ts, provide the local we want to use, and then we can add that plugin that will synchronize the external JSON like that. So it will load the content from that JSON. You will be able then to use the Intlayer command to test missing translations or to fill them using AI. And then it will rewrite the content inside that JSON here to be loaded inside the Vue INTN or any other solution. Vue INTN also provide a function local scoped-based localization, which is really nice. But Intlayer will take a similar approach, but by isolating all of that content into separated files. Then Intlayer, during the build time of your application, will automatically optimize your content for your bundle to ensure you will load only the content that will be imported into your different components. Okay, so I suggest to get started by setting up a new Vite application. I will name that project a Vite project. I will set up Vue, TypeScript, and we will leave everything by default. To set up Intlayer in that project, we will install three dependencies. Intlayer to declare our content, Vue Intlayer to interpret our dictionaries inside the Vue components, and Vite Intlayer that will manage the build of our dictionary when our application starts, and as well as the bundling optimization. Perfect. I will load that application inside VS Code. And the first thing we will do will be to add the Intlayer plugin imported from a Vite Intlayer. Then we will add a new config file named intlayer.config.ts, and inside I will declare all local that I will want to use inside my application. The next step will be to go on a main.ts file and we will install the Intlayer plugin. For that, I will import the install Intlayer plugin from Vue Intlayer, and we will simply write install Intlayer app like that. Once it's done, I will simplify a bit that component by rendering a simple hello world. And now we will declare some multilingual content inside a app.content.ts. So each content using Intlayer will be declared inside the .content file that customizable, and you can also use a JSON extension, declare one content multilingual inside one content file, or you can create one in English, one in Spanish, or whatever. So in that case, we will keep it as simple as we can. We will use declare that app.content.ts, and inside we will declare one dictionary. To declare one dictionary, I will just import the type of a dictionary from Intlayer, and I will declare an object that will be named content, and that content will contain a key that I will name app, and some content I will say title, and we'll declare again our hello world. Perfect. That stuff will be of type dictionary, and we will export by default our content. Okay, perfect. Right now, if I start my Vite application, we will see that Intlayer is starting in parallel and have found our content declaration file. In our code base, we see that we have a new folder .intlayer that we will inure in our Gitinior because it will be auto-generated. Okay, so the next thing to do will be to retrieve our hello world inside our component. To do that, we will import the use Intlayer composable from Vue Intlayer, and we will retrieve our content from use Intlayer, and we will provide the key that we gave a bit earlier, here, app. I will just write content.title, and we now have our hello world. Super. So right now we will change that hello world to make it multilingual. For that, I will import the T function from Intlayer, and I will simply add some content in English. So hello world. We will have that same content in French that will be bonjour le monde. And we will have the Spanish version that will be hola mundo. And right now, we will see that inside our app, if I provide a second argument here saying French, I will have my content in French and in Spanish as well. If I do not provide that second property, I will be by default in my default language here, hello world in English. The next step will simply be to add a language switcher .vue, and I will import that local switcher from component local switcher, and I will insert it local switcher. If I go back on my application, we can now switch my content in French and Spanish. But we still have one problem. If I analyze the code, we are still here in English, even if our content is in French. So we will have to change my long attribute from the HTML tag. To do it, I will add a new composable. So composable slash use, I will name it use I18n HTML attributes, and I will pass that code that use the use local composable to retrieve the current local, and we will change dynamically the long and the text direction from the document. I will import that composable inside my application just here. And now we see that that long attribute is switching if I change the local. The next step will be to declare different routes to retrieve our content in French or in English for a better indexation on Google. For that, I will add a new dependencies named Vue router, and then we will add a new file named router.ts, and inside I will pass that code. We will retrieve we will use the local flat map function provided by Intlayer to retrieve a URL prefix and a local field that we will inject as meta, and we will declare different routes for different language of our application. And before each route is loaded, we will set the Intlayer client to in the given local. After that, we will go inside our main.ts, and we will import our router from router, and we will add it as a plugin using app.use router. And right now, if I restart my application, we will see that by default, I'm retrieving the content in English, but if I switch to /fr, I will retrieve the content in French and same in Spanish. But we have a new problem because if I switch using the local switcher, the URL is not changing. So I will go inside my local switcher, I will import use router from Vue router, retrieve the router instance using use router, And then I will be able to access a property just here on local change. And I will say that, okay, we will retrieve the current URL and we will we will navigate to the navigated URL. If I switch the local, I will see that the URL is also changing. Okay, I will now have to set up TypeScript because right now I do not know if that key exists or not. So I will go inside my ts.app.ts and here Intlayer auto-generates the type of our content declaration. So I will simply insert it that way, type .ts. And if I go back inside my app component, I will now have an error if the key is invalid. I will also have auto suggestion for the content. And if you want, you can also add that config file inside that ts config. For that, I will add intlayer.config.ts. And if I go back here, I will have an error because that configuration field does not exist. Okay, I guess we are good. So let's go again a bit deeper. Here, Intlayer provide a bunch of other additional features as a CLI to test missing translation, fill them using AI, as well as a visual editor. So let's say that together. I will go inside my content declaration file and remove some content. I now have a TypeScript error saying that my Spanish and French translation are missing. But I can also run the npx intlayer test command, and intlayer will build our dictionaries and check inside them if any translation is missing. Perfect. So the next step will be to go in our config, and I will add an AI property saying, okay, the provider will be here OpenAI. I can pick the model I want. Let's take GPT 3.5 Turbo. I will add an application context saying, okay, this is a test application. And I will add a last field API key that I will take here from my dashboard on OpenAI. Okay, let's now run that command npx intlayer fill and we will see what will happen. It will be the same. It will build our dictionary, check for missing content, and ask OpenAI to generate that translation for us. Okay, it's going to prepare our content. And now if I go back on my .content file, even a TypeScript file, it's just inserted my content as well as some metadata to be able to retrieve that dictionary easily on the visual editor, as well as the description that could be used to also provide more context about that content declaration file. Okay, let's now have a look to the Intlayer visual editor. For that, I will install that extra package, Intlayer editor, as a dev dependency. And I will also go in my config and set the editor and say, okay, application URL, my application URL will be HTTP localhost, and that will be the port 70. Yeah, like this for a Vite application. Perfect. Right now, I will be able to run the command intlayer editor start, and I will add a flag saying, okay, it should run my Vite application also in parallel. Okay, we can see that the visual editor is running on the port 8000 and is watching the application that run on a port 5173. So if I start the visual editor, it seems that it does not do anything, right? That's because there is two ways to insert my content inside my component. Here, my content, my title was inserted as a string, but it could be inserted as a component that way. And right now, we can select that content and we render the title of the content declaration that was filled here. And we can edit that content. I will change it as test, download that new content declaration file, and here it just got changed. There is another option that you will have to know that the build configuration, you can force the optimization to true or to false. By default, that option is to undefined because Intlayer will optimize the way that your component import their related content only for production to avoid extra processing in development. The second option you will have to know is the import mode. By default, Intlayer imports statically the content inside their related components. That means in a page in English, you will also load from the server the content in French and Spanish. So depending the type of application you have, if it's a single page application or not, you may have to switch it to dynamic. The dynamic import will replace, Intlayer will replace under the hood all static import by dynamic import, but it will also rely on suspense, so you will have to adapt your Vue application. And it will also end up with extra requests because dynamic import create isolated bundles on the server side. So if you have 1000 dictionaries, you will end up with 1000 extra requests to your server. So the best way to manage that case will be to group your content declaration for a same section, let's say admin page or whatever, to group them under the same key. And Intlayer will manage the merge automatically of all your content file into one single dictionary if several content files use the same key. Okay, I guess that's it for me. I hope that video was useful. Do not hesitate to go on GitHub and drop a star on the project. Yeah, happy coding!